Oh, we've had such funny weather this morning of maybe depending on where you are in the city, you experienced sun. I think we're ready to get going here. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Paige Price. I'm the program manager here at the Waterloo Community Foundation. And like I said, we are so fortunate to have Eric Bertch from Lost Island here today to talk to us about specifically the new Lost Island theme park that opened earlier this summer. I know many of us have been hearing different things of people's experiences and the fun that they've been having there. And for a lot of us, we maybe haven't gotten to experience it yet. And so he'll be able to share more about how the summer's been going, just give us some details on the park. And yeah, anything else you'd like to share with us. So Eric, you can go ahead and get started whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Paige. Good morning, everyone. And as we say at Lost Island, Wahari, which means welcome to this impromptu presentation on Lost Island theme park. I'm going to start with our most recent commercial just to give you a flavor for what it looks like to fly over the park for those of you that haven't had an opportunity to do so. Okay, so that quick little 30-second blink is a snapshot in time of what the experience at Lost Island Theme Park is like. Now, I have another 3 minutes of video that I'm going to throw up here in a second, but I did just want to take an opportunity to tell you how the summer has been going. So the park opened on June 18th, and we obviously opened a little later than we were expecting, and there were so many pieces of this that needed to come together at once that we've definitely had a slower start to the operation than we were intending. However, we have gotten to the point now where everything is operating smoothly. Our maintenance teams have finally gotten a handle on all of the different rides and attractions to make sure that they are running smoothly, and to push back on the narrative that half of the rides aren't operating, or that a certain ride is they're unable to ride it. I'd like to put those concerns to rest and let you know that since the beginning of July, all of the attractions in the park, that means rides, play areas, and restaurants, food opportunities, all but one roller coaster have been operating uh, to to the best of their abilities since the beginning of the month. So, other than the launch coaster Matugani, if you are waiting to experience the rest of the rides out here, you you have no real reason to wait, because the likelihood that we're going to open that before the final weekend of the summer is dwindling as we continue to wait on some brake motors that we keep being told will be delivering next week, and next week continues to be next week. So we have faced many challenges over the course of the construction of this project, but the supply chain delays have definitely been the worst. The park, for those of you that are unfamiliar, is sort of an extension and adaptation off of the Lost Island Water Park's theme. So it's still an island, but this has gone much further than our vague tropical escape that the water park affords to people. The theme park is meant to be much more of an immersive environment that allows people the opportunity to learn a little bit more about a backstory that we created, and get familiar with some characters at the park as well through a companion app. So as you can see in the video here that we had filmed a couple days ago, the different realms here are going to have different color palettes. So this roller coaster is called Locolo, which means caterpillar. These flying bikes are another ride in the Tamariki realm. This realm is geared towards children, lots of bright colors. Now, the Murra realm, which is kind of the climax of your visit to the park, features that dark ride. I thought you weren't going to make noise. That dark ride that has been lauded by the industry as a very unique and Disney level type of experience. This is a interactive fountain feature in the Murra realm as well. Another ride in the Murra realm, everything in reds, oranges, blacks to invoke a very ominous, fiery environment. This is one of the other realms, Awa, which is based on water. So everything in this realm is in blues and tans, making you feel like you're on the beach. And it's the most similar realm to the water park. This drop tower structure is one of the rides in Udara, the air realm, and the photo opportunity that you may have watched those girls take advantage of is inside the queue. So part of the immersion here at Lost Island Theme Park is taking experiences that people can't get in the Midwest at a Six Flags or a Worlds of Fun, and you're really only able to find in a Disney or a Universal park. So bringing those experiences into this area was very important to us. And one of those elements is a themed queue idea that can turn a ride like a drop tower that you can find in a variety of other parks into a little bit more of an experience with that flying machine photo opportunity, and then also the sort of history and lore of the park that we're trying to create. Now, these bumper cars are one of the fan favorites at the park. operators were not expecting people to enjoy them as much as they do, but it's one of the rides that consistently has a line. And Nopuko, the purple coaster here that you're watching, is also obviously one of the most popular rides at the park because it is one of two working roller coasters right now. Um, the ride is a little bit rough, which is common for suspended coasters. Just like all of the other rides in Udara, your feet get lifted off the ground on all of those rides. The sand play structure that is in this video here is a central play feature for Utah, which is the Earth Realm. That's a little bit of a ghost area right now because Matugani, the launch coaster, and our flume ride, Utah Falls, are not working. So other than a restaurant and the sandbox area, that realm is a little bit light for attractions right now. For those of you who didn't know, back in March during construction, we experienced a fire that took down the Q building for Utah Falls, the flume ride attraction. And so that will be new in 2023. It will also be the third themed Q building in the park. So in addition to that drop tower, Skyborne, we also have a themed queue in the dark ride, which is really not represented well in that video, but is an industry award-winning ride that is unique to Lost Island. So it was a collaborative effort that we created with the manufacturer, Sally Dark Rides, and you cannot find it anywhere but Lost Island. The story, the musical score, the animatronics, and the gameplay is all unique to our park. So people during construction would often compare, oh, you're putting a dark ride in like the underground at Adventureland. No, that's like comparing a 10 speed to a Bugatti. They're completely different in every sense of the word. They're not even remotely similar. There's a replay value and interaction element that just can't be explained until you've ridden on it here at Lost Island. So I was kind of letting the video dictate what I was explaining, and it took me on a whole bunch of tangents. Each of the 5 realms has a central play area that we added as a meeting space, but also a way for guests to interact and have something to do that wasn't necessarily a ride. So ADA compliance is something that's very important to us as well. All of the rides are available to mobility challenged people through ramps and accommodations within the ride vehicles. The only restrictions are if people happen to be missing limbs. There may be a few rides that they are restricted from riding for safety reasons, but anybody in a wheelchair or using some sort of mobility aid can ride on every ride in the park as long as they have all 4 of their limbs, and that's kind of a big deal. In addition to utilizing those central play features, so there is a playground, a musical windmill, a pop jet water maze with a fountain in the center that has a special hidden feature if you can find the pressure buttons hidden near the center. And then the sandbox play feature that has a variety of hidden treasures to be found. And then our interactive shrine in front of the volcano is the final interactive centerpiece to each realm that sort of ties the realm together. So the other way that we chose to push out the content as far as the characters and history of the park we felt instead of having to place signage up everywhere as if you're walking through a forest preserve or a zoo, that, to be honest, 90% of the visitors would probably never read anyway. We felt it was much more organic to put it in the form of a companion app for mobile devices. So there's an app that you can download from either Apple or the Google Play Store called Lost Island Adventure Guide, that is a interactive map feature that you can use to find yourself within the park, as well as search out all the attractions. So whether you're looking for a restroom or a restaurant with a specific menu, or trying to find out which rides a child of a certain height can ride, that's all found on the app. And then if you choose to, you can scroll down below that map and find a whole gamified area that allows you to collect avatars and earn badges for just exploring the park. So if you go on a ride a certain number of times, that'll earn you a badge for air miles, the amount of time that you spent on a roller coaster. Or if you visit a restaurant, you'll earn a badge for uh, eating a big kahuna. There are avatars hidden throughout the park that have little quotes and a bunch of flavor text and videos that, as you roam around the park, the videos will unlock to tell you a little bit more about Lost Island. And uh, building an amusement park, a new amusement park in the country, is not something that happens very often anymore. It's usually facilities that are being acquired or expanded upon. Building a theme park is even less heard of. And the reason for that is theme parks are really an added level of difficulty, because you have to talk to some intellectual property, whether it's Marvel or SpongeBob or Angry Birds, and get their approval, and then go through this franchise agreement where everything has to be approved. And by the time the park actually gets under construction, that IP may no longer even be popular. So it's a long, drawn out process that it's a real gamble that what you're trying to build is going to still be relevant when you get to the finished product. And so we felt that in the Midwest, the space for an amusement park is already fairly crowded. You have Adventureland in Des Moines, you have Valley Fair up in Shakopee, there's Six Flags over in Illinois, and Worlds of Fun down in Missouri. And so putting in another just amusement park, especially at the size that we're planning to start with, was unlikely to succeed the way that we would hope it would. And so we felt that adding that additional layer of engagement, where it's not just riding the rides like at Six Flags, but it's interacting with the environment, like when you go to the Hogwarts Castle in Orlando, that would be the element that set us apart from our competitors in the region. And so when we went about trying to decide how to do that, we wanted to keep with an island theme, but the idea of going to another intellectual property never really occurred to us. We always wanted to create something on our own. The method, though, originally was that, well, we would borrow from Polynesian islands, and that didn't really sit right once we saw it on paper, because we are a white family from Iowa, and no matter how you spin it, it's really hard to pitch the idea that we wouldn't be culturally appropriating these rich cultures from another part of the world by doing that. And so we went through several iterations of trying to find other inspiration, whether it was Atlantis or a few other lost civilizations throughout the world. And it really came down to, you know what, it's probably just going to be easiest in retrospect if we just make it all up from whole cloth. So that's where the ideas for this park came from. We for good or ill, decided to start from scratch and just using the four elements as a basis, we built out this whole universe of uh, history and backstory to kind of inform our decisions on how the park was designed. So we had a great designer from Cincinnati that helped us work on the water park, who was on board and had a great collaborative vision to help us bring the park to life. But when it came down to, well, how would the Ujara people build their buildings based on this backstory that we were using as our source material, that was how we informed the architectural choices and the the ride mix that ended up ultimately being the finished product out here. Um, so we're very happy with the result, but obviously we've been looking at it for almost 10 years now. So it's easy to kind of get blinders, and it was very anxiety inducing to finally open the gates to guests. We have been very fortunate that the overwhelming response has been positive, and although the backstory elements that we are hoping people will learn about on repeat visits haven't really been front and center, because we've been trying to get just the nuts and bolts of operating down. We were training people on how to properly cook a cheeseburger on opening day, because the restaurants had just been approved by the health department the day before. Uh, Smoothing all that out has been our number one concern, but we are hoping that going forward, especially into next season, that we can start drawing some of that out to create the engagement with our guests that we are hoping to uh, implement, that will encourage repeat visitors and have them become more interested in the park as more than just a roller coaster park, or a place that they come to ride rides and ditch out right away. Maybe they would prefer to spend a little bit of time uh, deciphering a code that's written on a ruin, or try to locate all of our Tamariki sculptures that are hidden throughout the park. So there are more things to find here than just rides, and we are excited to introduce this new idea to more people, hopefully more in the Waterloo area, since the majority of the visitors have been from outside of this area, and continue to improve the guest experience overall as we go. I know I'm a little short of my total presentation time, but if there's anything specifically that the participants would like me to speak to, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, if anybody has specific questions for Eric, you can either put them in the chat, or you can go ahead and unmute yourself as well. Looks like we have one popping in here. So Eric, do you or other members of management have a personal interest in alternate universes or realms, or was it more of a research-driven vision to better engage with attendees?
It's a really good question. The I guess the idea of alternate universes is very interesting. I mean, we drew a lot of inspiration from, as I said, from Disney and the Universal properties, as far as the type of experience that we wanted to provide to people. As far as an interest in creating, or yeah, the idea of an alternate universe, I guess, is only talking about specifically the park itself. So the idea of like Lord of the Rings being a universe, a literary universe, we're working on putting together a novel for the facility that will also be another vehicle to kind of share our source material. So in that way, literary movie universes, that's kind of the direction we were going. If you're talking about string theory and that type of alternative reality stuff, that is way above my level of intelligence.
Another question that came in is has the turnout been as you expected or more or lack of, or I mean, do you have any insights or theories on why
Sure.
that would be, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we came into this expecting to knock it out of the park because that's what the water park has been doing for 20 years. We have seen a steady growth of attendance over there. And unfortunately, because of many challenges to getting the park open, period, and then the very soft opening that we had, just because, as I said, we were literally training people as guests were coming in the door. Um, I think that lack of marketing, the messaging that we were using as far as, hey, come, but do realize we are a work in progress, because that messaging is the only thing that people heard, that dampened interest considerably. And so our attendance is pretty far below what we were anticipating for the year, but we're okay with that. It would have been nice to have made some money this summer, but we can survive one year of taking losses if it means that we can straighten out the guest experience going forward. And as I said, our focus now is finishing out the summer in a good place to really ramp up our marketing efforts in the fall, going into the spring, to let everyone know, listen, we're 100% ready to welcome you now, and uh, hope that we can see a considerable increase next summer.
Yeah, just a quick question before I move on to some more from the comments, but what will be your open season for the theme park? Is it different from the water park, or?
It's going to run the same as our golf and go-karts. So we anticipate being open weekends in May, Saturdays and Sundays, as well as Memorial Day, and then weekends in September, Saturdays and Sundays, including Labor Day. And then every day during the summer while kids are out of school. So it's usually the first Friday in June until the last, the second to last weekend of August. And then we have to close because schools go back in session, and then we go to weekends through the end of September.
Awesome. Okay, so we have a question from Joe, who's from Wartburg, and she said, I know staffing was a challenge. Has that gotten better? Do you anticipate hiring college students again next summer?
The staffing situation has been challenging for seasonal jobs for a while. It's only it's only worsened since the pandemic. So we are going to continue to pursue a number of options. We were expecting, again, we were trying to be optimistic and hope that we would get enough interest from local workers that we would be able to staff our both facilities, the water park and the theme park, this year. And that turned out to be inaccurate. So we are learning our lesson, and going into next year, we're looking to bring in a good number of J1 visa participants to help fill out those ranks. So we have an idea of approximately how many local employees we can bring in, but the number that we require is significantly higher. And so we're just going to be bolstering that number with J1 participants. And to Joe's question, specifically college age kids, absolutely. I mean, we go after the Wartburg, UNI, Iowa, ISU. I guess those are the main ones. Drake a little bit. We have workers who go to those schools that we send out as recruiters to try to bring back some additional workers, especially if they live in this area and are going to school elsewhere. They plan on coming back for the season or for the summer. Just trying to get a bug in their ear so that they don't end up going to work somewhere else when they come home. We had a number of international workers from Wartburg this year that Joe helped us line up, who worked out really well. We just have to work out a better transportation solution for them, because that's the one thing that we have trouble with being on the south side of town, is getting people out here easily. So we know that hiring is going to be challenging for this type of work. So I think J1 people are going to be our solution to that, as well as relying on as many people in the area as we can.
Awesome. Good job, Joe, sending some employees their way. Next question, would you be able to tell us more about the landscaping and botanical elements within the realms?
Was this question coming from someone from the landscaping architect that we worked with?
It
You get it
wasn't,
from-
but it
you
would
get it
seem
from
like
me,
a plant.
Okay, great. Because
So-
I know someone from there might be listening, so I'll have to choose my words carefully.
We just heard it was quite impressive, so I would love for others to know about it too.
So the chatter online is that we don't have any shade and that the place looks very barren, and that was something that we knew going in was going to be a problem. It happened at the water park and it happened at the campground. These properties used to be cornfields, so there is no vegetation to utilize for landscaping. I don't think anyone would want to see a soybean patch in a garden area. So we are literally starting from bare earth. And for anyone that has ever tried to grow a garden or a flower from seed, or even from a plant that you purchase at the store, it takes a minute for that to get established and grow. So while this year, which many of the plants are still getting put in the ground this week, it may appear a little bare. We added 40,000 plants to the property, including over 80 trees of at least 6-inch caliper, I think, which caliper comes out to, what is that, Sam? Correct me if I'm wrong, like 4.5-inch diameter trunks. So they're pretty substantial trees. You can't transplant much larger than that without hitting power lines as you're driving down the road. So we want there to be trees and greenery and flowers throughout the park more than anyone. And so again, I think that people just need to give us a minute for those things to get established, and next year they will be much more noticeable because they'll have had an opportunity to grow. The fact that we haven't had any rain has also made it pretty challenging for those things to survive. We've been watering them as much as we can, but when it's 90 degrees 10 days in a row, it takes a toll on plants. Specifically, we have a wide variety of grasses, perennial flowers, annuals, and trees and shrubs. So different heights, different textures, leaf shapes, colors. The landscape design was done in such a way that it mirrors the color palettes of the realm. So each realm has kind of its own ecosystem of plants, and that's one of the other things that you can discover as you walk around. The trees, we've tried to group as much as we can, but in some places having a tall shade tree was more important than thematically having it match. But all of the smaller plants are specific to different areas of the park. So you have lavender and some very wispy tree plants in Udara, which is air. Utah has a lot of viney and broadleaf plants to help it spread out so it looks more jungly. Tamariki has a lot of bright colored flowers and grasses for the vomit of color that's in that realm. So just the landscaping is one of the details that we spent a lot of time, and Rit and Cooper spent a lot of time ensuring that it matched what we were trying to do in the rest of the park.
No, that's really interesting. And I think too, just as you were talking, most of us haven't had the opportunity to go to a theme park or a park when it's first opening like that. So we're used to seeing it with the 10 to 20-year trees and all of that stuff. And so it's just kind of oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. This is the first time that I've been at something that's just starting. So the note for patience is good. We have a really positive comment here from somebody who's been to the park, and then ends with a question here, but I want to read the whole thing just as kind of encouragement too. So it says, my family has been to the park 2 times so far. We stayed open to close both times. There is so much more than just rides, and each theme is so unique and interesting. The app adds a whole other element as well. There are plenty of spots to take breaks and other fun activities. My 8-year-old most definitely has the record for sea swell, and my 4-year-old loves the Awadi battle boats. It seems there are a lot of misconceptions and rumors about the park. Do you have a plan to change some of those misconceptions?
Well, Ashley, first, thank you very much for the comment. It's always nice to hear that people are enjoying their visit. And as far as the misconceptions, yeah, we try to push out a positive message as much as we can, and that's why doing meetings like this are very important, because we all are bombarded by information all the time these days, and so a lot of people are just going to hear what they want. There are a number of people in this area who don't even know that Lost Island Water Park exists, because they never go to the south side of town and they never are on any of the social media or pay attention to any of the other media that we exist on. And so there are always going to be people that you just can't change their mind. They're always going to assume that half of our rides are not working because they heard from somebody else on Facebook somewhere that the one time that they came, 6 rides weren't operating. And so all we can do is continue to push out the message that no, everything is running, and hope that those misconceptions die out before next season. Because at this point, we made a lot of mistakes advertising the park, because we knew there were going to be a lot of challenges, and the last thing we wanted to do was say, we're open, come enjoy this place, it's 100% ready, we know exactly what we're doing, and then had 2,000 people show up and then have all of this negative response saying, well, 2 of the restaurants were having trouble with their ice cream machine, so we couldn't get any of that, and these rides were all down and they don't know what they're doing. We were very careful to temper that, and while we probably went a little overboard the wrong way, as I said, this year is a year for learning and verifying how we should be able to improve the guest experience for next year, so that when we do open the doors in May of 2023, we're 100% ready and have a much better foundation to dispel those misconceptions.
Great. Our next question is, how has income been? Have you been able to break even on operations for the season?
I knew that was going to come up. No, no, this has been a hard consequence of moving forward with this project, is building during the pandemic, and then dealing with the supply chain issues, and then weather related delays and the fire, and then more of the supply chain delays and just cost explosions that have happened. Once we got started with the project, it really kind of snowballed out of control in terms of what we had planned to spend. And then because the opening was delayed and all of the other challenges that we faced getting the word out that the park was in fact open has led to very depressed numbers for attendance. And we unfortunately have broken even one day, which was last summer, this whole operating season. So we're able to survive a season of, a loss this year. But that's why it's so much more important for us to really push the message out next year, because we feel like there is the potential for us to be bringing in double the attendance of the water park. What we failed to remember is that the water park has been around for 20 years. And so getting to those numbers is going to take us probably a couple of years to obtain. And so the overages with the construction costs coupled with the very low attendance has been the exact opposite of what we experienced 22 years ago when the water park opened. There's a much smaller facility, and our operating costs were much lower back then for that facility. So we were able to be cash flow positive in 2001, the first year we opened the water park, which was amazing. And that's kind of what stuck with us when we were building this project. Was it's okay, we were able to do it once, certainly we'll be able to do it again. And that hasn't quite turned out. So we're looking forward to next year being the actual grand opening year and being able to continue to grow just like the water park did. We just are having to back up a little to start.
No, that's great. Samantha said, great job explaining the landscaping. And do you think you'll add special events like night events or events during Halloween, etc., in the future?
Of course, that was always a plan for future. We had hoped to be open this summer, but due to our staffing challenges, we had to nix that idea. We've spent an incredible amount on pathway lighting to not be open during the evenings. It actually, the park is way more impressive at night, but you do lose a lot of the details because you're in twilight when those pathway lights are on, so you may not see the impressions in the concrete or some of the other details. But yeah, we are hoping that next year we will be open on the weekends and the evenings, and then a Halloween event is probably going to be 2024. We absolutely are planning to do shoulder season events, but because this year was so much less than we were expecting, the capital is, we're kind of being delayed a year on a lot of those future developments. So getting our footing is going to be next year, and then adding those events and more attractions, whether it be live entertainment or just rides in general, is going to be something that will start happening in 2024.
Yeah, building off of that question, somebody asked, is there consideration being given for corporate events?
Yeah, again, part of the reason we didn't do season passes at the theme park this year was just the unknown factor of when we were going to open, what rides would be available, how long the park would be open if we ended up needing to close early, as we kind of had to do with the water park last year from staffing concerns. So the water park also stayed away from corporate events the first year while we were getting our feet under us. going into next year, we're planning on offering the same sort of packages that the water park has available. We will have the flume ride and picnic pavilion area completed by that time. So being able to facilitate corporate events will be much easier going forward.
Awesome. Next question is the goal to always have both the water park and theme park going forward?
We have no intention of selling the water park. So I guess, yes, the plan is that both facilities will remain open in the foreseeable future as long as we have guests visiting them.
Sigh of relief. um, One question I had, just as you talked about kind of the difference with a theme park and an amusement park, kind of how the theme park sausage gets made a little bit, because all of your rides have to go along with the theme. Are the places that make those making them specifically for you so that they have the right names and the right features and all of that, or how does that kind of work?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the same process as going to a car manufacturer and asking them to paint it a custom color or add certain features. So we do have a few refurbished rides out here. The drop tower is one. The two coasters are both refurbished. And so we found people on the internet that refurbish rides, and they sandblast and do non-destructive testing on all of the pieces of track to verify that there isn't any potential failures at any of the welds or anything. And then they repaint them so they look brand new. We upgraded the trains on the suspended looping coaster and had to do a lot of work to the hydraulic winch system on the launch coaster, as well as the brake motors, to get them up to ASTM standards. But all of the new rides that we purchased, they show you what a stock version of that ride looks like, and then we just say, okay, we want butterflies on this flying bikes ride, or the sea swell is typically a pirate ship, so we just had them retheme it to look more like a Maori war canoe to fit the theme for us. And for the most part, they're able to do pretty much anything you want as long as it doesn't severely impact the weight or shape of the ride vehicle. So yeah, that was a very long process because we were dealing with multiple manufacturers, and so making sure that all of the color palettes that they were using were going to match, and that the theming work that was being done would at least closely represent each other, so you didn't have this abstract feature over here next to a very ornate hand drawn looking ride vehicle right next to it. So there was a lot of comparing with magnifying glasses and phone calls with color swatches that had to happen in order for everything to match the way that we intended.
Wow, my eyes are going cross just thinking about the creativity and then all of the details that go into all of that. That's amazing. And it's fun to hear about some of the background to what we're seeing there. Next question, do you ever plan on having a connecting bridge or a trolley between the parks?
This is a question that we get a lot, and we are hoping to eventually have a shuttle that goes between both locations. We also had plans long ago when we were hoping to put commercial real estate on the west side of our theme park lake, that we would have a ferry that people could take as well across the lake. The timeline on that shuttle is unknown, again, because of the attendance this year. And also the challenge with a shuttle right now is that the water park doesn't charge for parking and the theme park does. And to give some background on why that is happening, the water park, as we have ramped up the attendance over there, has gotten to the point where the parking lot is far too small and it's unable to grow. And so when we were building the theme park, we ran into the same issue where the property that the parking lot was designed on has a wetland on the south end that we could not build on. And so we lost a significant number of parking spots. And so thinking about the water park and the fact that we are running into issues now with with space, we felt that adding a toll, which is common at amusement parks anyway, would encourage people to consolidate riders into vehicles to help us allow more people to enter the park with fewer vehicles. The unexpected side effect of that is that now we have one gate that requires a parking charge and another gate that does not. And so adding a shuttle prior to charging for water park parking will just incentivize people to park at the water park and further congest that parking lot so that they can forego having to pay to park at the theme park. So the steps in order to get a shuttle are going to be, we have to start charging for parking at the water park first, and then we will provide a shuttle so that once you go someplace, you are only getting in your car once, and then you can take the shuttle back and forth. But they will have to pay a parking fee because we just don't have space for everybody to drive themselves.
All right, we've got a few more comments, but they're positive, so I want to share them with you. One is from Mark, and it says, "Thank you so much for making this amazing investment to attract people to Waterloo and the Cedar Valley." And then someone said, "Eric, scanning people in at the water park who have park hopper passes, asking about the theme park, I get nothing but positive reactions. Congratulations on a great park for Waterloo." And then someone did speak to the parking too. It said parking should never be free. People think it's a public good. That public needs to be retained, that there is cost to providing parking. And so I think you provided some good insight on that too, of why that's a necessity and kind of, yeah, the why behind that.
Well,
I would love, oh, go ahead.
Just responding to these comments, I appreciate everybody's positive thoughts. And again, it's been our pleasure bringing these attractions to the area. We are more than happy to explain our reasoning on why we do things. And I just really do want everyone to know that the last thing that we're trying to do is squeeze pennies out of our neighbors. I mean, the goal of these parks has always just been to provide an experience that people in this area are unaccustomed to. I mean, the water park, that has always been our goal, and I just want the community to know that.
No, that's great. And we really appreciate your transparency today too, and talking about some of those challenges and and it sounds like that's been one of your guys' values from the very beginning, is we just want to be honest with the community and not gloss over some of these things that we're facing. Kind of curiosity as we wind down here, is there a certain ride or part of the park that you enjoy the most or that you're most excited about?
I can't pick a favorite, Paige. That I love all of them equally. We spent so much time building each area. They all have something special to find, as the visitors have mentioned. Well, who was that? Ashley was saying there's so much that we kind of added that a lot of people will never even notice if they're just here to ride the rides. There are things in each area that stick out as being the most fun, or my favorite secret I guess, in each of the realms. As far as rides, like I said, even if you're not a bumper car person, you really should check out Kukui Station, because being on those little hovercrafts, if you bump into somebody hard enough, it will spin you around in a circle. And that's something that you're not going to find at a lot of other bumper car uh, locations. And then our Amara aviators, which is on that video of the people with the wings being able to control their own ride vehicle, is another really impressive ride to watch, and uh, really speaks to the amount of interactivity that we promote at the park. Because if you just want to stay upright and make an ellipse, that is totally fine. But if you would prefer to try to spin upside down as many times as possible, you can be doing that right next to someone who does not want anything to do with that. So that's a really cool ride to watch people go on. And then obviously the dark ride is our crown jewel in terms of the level of customization that went into it. I mean, everything in that ride is from our imagination. There's an animatronic gentleman in there who talks to people as they walk through the queue line. All of the murals and site props were designed by us. We created the pre-show and talked to the voice actor that talks you through what you're going to be accomplishing when you get through the dark ride, and right down to designing the thermal equalizer pistols that you use. We help them develop everything in there. So lots of things that we got to play with making the whole park.
Yeah, I guess we were kind of asking you to almost choose a favorite kid a little bit. A lot has gone into all of these. You can't play favorites.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, we've only got a couple minutes left here. Eric, is there anything else that you wanted to share kind of as we close down here?
No, the one thing that I forgot to mention is that there's also music in the park that was composed for us as well. So that is one element that will also take you outside of Waterloo when you enter the park. It adds so much to the experience, and it's possible that anybody that had visited previously, that the music might not have been working. We've been troubleshooting that a little bit as well. So even if you don't notice it's there, it does subconsciously add quite a bit to your experience. So just one more thing that we threw in there to improve the guest experience.
No, that's great. Someone did say how the music changes from realm to realm is very impressive. So that's great. That's good to know about. And thank you, as we close out here, so much for joining us today. I know I've learned a lot about what to expect. I look forward to going next summer when I'm not 7 months pregnant, but it's fun to hear about kind of the backstory of what all went into this and what we can expect. And we just as the community where you've chosen to do this too, we really are grateful for all of the intentionality to bring things that aren't available within the Midwest here. And just, we know things like this bring a lot of opportunities to our community. So we're grateful for you. We're grateful that you took an hour from your busy summer here to share more about it with us too. And for everyone attending, thank you so much for joining us as well. We will be sending out a recording of this presentation so you can rewatch or forward on and share with friends. It's also been on Facebook Live as well, so you can check out our Waterloo Community Foundation Facebook page and view it there or share it there as well. Our next Windows on Waterloo presentation will be on Wednesday, September 7th. And we will have David Sturch from Met Transit. He will be talking to us about some changes that they're making to the bus routes this fall. So pretty major changes. And so that'll be interesting to hear about kind of the why and what some of those changes will be and how it will affect our community. And then beyond that, on October 5th, we will have Johnny Hansen from the Hospitality House and the Waterloo Warming Center here. Crazy to think that we'll already be approaching the cold weather, but she'll be talking about the resources that they provide for our homeless populations and other people in need and how we can come around organizations and that type of work. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.